And in this video we'll cover a few more tips and tricks in regards to the Autodesk Inventor weld environment. And one of the big wishes we have is stages of weld. Currently you cannot show stages of weld. You can show the parts in the stages of welds. You can control the visibility of the parts in different stages, but you cannot control the visibility of individual welds. And by that I mean, say we want to take this spindle and this spindle, weld them together first. We don't want to show any other parts, and we only want to show the two big welds here to connect those two parts. Currently you cannot do that. You can show the individual parts, like I said, at a stage, but you can't break up the welds. So if you do need to show it stages of weld, one, you're probably best to possibly not do it, or two, you can have stages of weld just showing what parts are coming together, and you'll still have one or two or three ISO views that will show you all the welds. So that's currently the way you have to handle it. And another cool little tool that is in here, if we go into the weld environment, and some weldments get really large where the entire browser will be filled just by welds, and trying to find the exact weld you want to edit can be a little bit cumbersome. So what you can do is you can go up here and you can do select feature priority, and it's pretty sensitive of where you can pick when you can't pick, but you can see that it highlighted. I can do a find in browser if you have a lot of welds, and it'll scroll to it. But like I said, sometimes you got to hover just the right place. You may have to rotate your view to hover because it may try to select features behind it. So just a little tidbit of information. But for smaller weldments that have less welds, you can just hover over it and it'll highlight the individual different weld beads or weld features. So one other weld situation is if you want to do stitch welds around a round, and pretty straightforward. You can do full fillet weld all the way around, but for instance, just like the fillet command, you pick your two surfaces, your two faces that you want to fillet. You can go in and put your stitches. So you got a 1-inch weld every 3 inches. Well, that's a bit of a problem because we want to get this grease zerk in here. We want to make sure we have clearance. We want to keep that fillet away from there. Well, you can't do an offset on a round from a starting point. Again, another wish. So what we have to do, I pre-created a couple here. I'm going to suppress that feature. I'm going to unsuppress this weld. So what we did is we went in and did a preparation. And in that preparation, all we did was create a small extrusion that's going to cut through that part. Now this is a feature that's just done at this assembly. It does not affect the piece part. It will not affect torch pass, laser pass, CNC pass. But what it lets us do is create that start point. So we're putting a flaw basically in the geometry, and that's where the weld is going to start from. As you can see, it starts right there. Okay, so this weld's actually okay, and we're actually clearing it there. But by doing that feature, if you want to offset that start point where you want it to start at, because you put that break in the geometry, that's where it started at. And you can do a start offset from there once you do that. So say we want it to offset, that's obviously this isn't what I wanted because it put it back in front of that circle. But you can see that it now has an offset from that plane. So if you need to control where a stitch weld starts and stops on a round, you can do that. Or even if you just need to do a start offset or an end offset with a full weld all the way around, just throwing in a piece of geometry in there will help you be able to do that offset. I was also told you can do a split face, but the only thing with the split face is that that line's going to be the entire way through there. For the offsets, you cannot use work planes. It actually physically has to be a piece of geometry. And one other word of note, there is a from to within round parts. we have not found a way to get that to work. I believe what it needs is geometry that crosses the path of the weld perpendicularly. It has to have those requirements or those parameters and in order to be able to use for a start and stop within a weld. So just a word of wisdom that the from to does not work on round parts. And one last little tidbit on that length. When you create that cut through there, that length has to be slightly longer than the leg length of your weld. If that is not longer than your weld, it will not pick that up and use it. It'll go right across it and fill that back in. So very important that leg of that cut is longer than the weld itself, the weld leg. And that concludes this video. Thank you.